Okay, well, hi again, everyone, and welcome to this week's Alertus Power Lunch, mastering the three levels of testing, test mode, silent test, and audible test, but we're looking at part two. So my name is Brooke, and I'm a training specialist here at Alertus. And during part two of our series, we're going to focus on verifying audible alerting and coverage, as well as best practices for regular testing and ensuring system readiness. If you want to review part one, which is around test mode and silent testing, the link will be available in the chat at the end of the session, so I'll be sure to share that. As always, this is an interactive session, so please feel free to ask any questions using the Q&A feature, and also be aware that this session is being recorded for training purposes. All right, so with that, I am, of course, going to start off by sharing my screen. Let me get that going. So we are currently in the Alertus console here. I'm logged in as a full admin, as you can see up here on the top with my role. We are going to set up, as we mentioned, an audible test. So we highly recommend doing testing quarterly or monthly, establishing a schedule, and we'll get into scheduling alerts. It's also important to test the system regularly after you do any server updates, configuration changes, or like troubleshooting or system maintenance things. Also, if you are doing an audible test, please make sure to inform any stakeholders or any members of the community about the test beforehand so they are aware that something is going to be going off in their system and nothing gets in the crosshairs and people get too frightened. But of course, when we send out our audible test, we are going to make sure that the language that we use is very clear, that this is a test, and we'll also, especially for our desktop pop-ups, we'll have different behavior for a test alert. So a different emergency pop-up will look and override in a different way than a test. So with that, we are going to go in and create those different audible alert services right here for desktop text-to-speech speakers and alert beacons. With alert beacons, if you go into this one right here, you can see that all of the settings for an alert beacon are customized within the preset alert. So when we go to build that preset alert, we will do that there. For the desktop, you can see I have a whole bunch of different desktop options. I could choose from one of these options that I have, but I'm going to show you how to build a new one that is an audible test, and then we can create an alert service from there. So I'm going to go down to desktop and scroll down to desktop profiles. And that's where I have all of the different behaviors. So I do have some system tests already in here that I could come in here and I can edit. So this one is a system pop-up with text to speech that I could use, and I could change the variables, change the colors, whatever I'd like to set up in here, I could. Or I could build from scratch. So if I go back to desktop and I add a new desktop profile, then I am going to give this one an audible test for 6.5. And so with my emergency alerts, I know that I send out the full screen classic alerts. So I want to avoid sending that during an active test, because during the real emergency, it'll be more intrusive. And then a test, we can choose a less intrusive option. So you could choose a ticker, which you can choose to be on like the top or bottom of your screen. You can have it be really small, medium, or large. And then of course you can change all of the colors here, as well as if you want to set any audio settings, you can. But for my test, I'm going to do a pop-up. And with a pop-up, that is going to come up on the bottom right of my screen, but I could choose maybe a different place for a pop-up. I prefer bottom right, but if you want to do anything different, you can. You also can set different settings. So if you want the user to be able to move it or reduce opacity when inactive, or set up specific lock and log on screen behavior, then you can. And then, of course, you can also choose your own template. So we have a whole bunch of different templates here. Here's an announcement one that we can edit. We have banners. We have crisp. This one's my favorite. And we can see here that the test says emergency alert, and then the language from the preset is going to come in here. So if I want to edit this, I'm going to go to variables, and I am going to change where it says emergency alert, and I'm just going to call this system test. And so that pops up like that. I actually think I want it in full caps like the other one. So system test is there. We also can change the colors. So for a test, let's keep it green. Everyone knows green is light and happy. For any pop-ups, we're not too worried about that coming in. So I will do that. Oops. And then if there are any other different things I want to change, then I can. Yeah, really, if I want this to say just dismiss, whatever I wanted to say. And then, of course, I have my audio settings. So this is up to you all with how you want this test to be. Audible obviously means like you can hear it, but it also is going to be a visual alert. So it's not going to be a silent test. It's going to pop up on the screens. People will see it. So if you want to keep it like that, you can. If you want it to be text to speech, which will repeat whatever message is here, then you can do that and you can set how many times you want it to repeat and how much delay you want in between the repeats. You also can generate the text to speech on the server, which is just kind of a way to make it sound similar across the board for all your desktops, as well as override system volume. I don't recommend override system volume for tests. That one's more so for emergencies in case anyone is has their mute on or their volume all the way down, then you can see that. For audio files, you can also use this too as well. We have different chimes or different alerts you can use. So if you want it to just be a chime like that, maybe I'll apply that one um, and have that live in chime, apply. Now I have the chime, and once again, I'll have it repeat 3 times with that delay, and I'm not going to override my volume. Or you can, of course, set it to no audio. So I'm going to have the chime. We have a visual and an audible alert on the desktops. We have the pop-up. We have where it's going to pop up. We have the colors that we want and anything like that. And so then when I click add, it's going to ask me if I want to create a new alert service for this desktop, which I do. And I'm going to name this desktop audible alert 6.5. And then I always like to include what the pop-up looks like. So green pop-up with chime. So now I know exactly what that is. And when I click OK and go back to my alert services, and then I will see in that list, I have that desktop audible alert 6.5 green pop-up with chime. So I know exactly what that's going to do when I pull that in. If you already have built an alert service, I'm sorry, a desktop profile here, and you want to build an alert service from that, and because if you go in here and edit this and then click save, it's not going to ask you to create that alert service again. It's just the first time. So if you ever need to create a new one, you also could come here, click add alert service, go to desktop, and then it's just going to literally ask you to pull in the profile. So I made that Audible test 6.5 is the one that I made. So I could pull that in here and it would be the same thing, give it a name. Either which way is fine. So now I have 2 alert services. I have the alert beacon that's ready to go, and I have my desktop. The last one that we need to take a look at is our text to speech. So I do think, once again, I have some ones that are set up for system test. So I could come in here and edit these. You could take a look at this and you could see that I'm pulling in the service type, text to speech, and then all of the settings that I've already set up for this. Or I come in here and I could add a new alert service from scratch. So when I do that, I will look for the one that's called IP text to speech. And this is for any IP AVA speakers and also our IP module, text to speech module. You'll be using the same alert service for. And then I'm going to name this one text to speech, audible test 6.5. And then I have all of these different settings I can set up. So this graphic here is going to explain what all of the fields mean. So you can see there's a pre-wave, then we have the actual audio itself, which is either text to speech or a wave file. And then we have a post wave and then a delay before it can repeat. So that's what all of these fields mean. So if I want to have a pre-wave, which is like a chime, once again, I'll use that same chime that we heard earlier, then I can set that up as my pre-wave. So it'll go ding ding, and then it'll have, I'm going to use text to speech. So whatever I put in my preset alert, it will send out that instead of doing the audio. And then I get to choose how many times I want that to repeat. So I think that I want it to repeat twice, which is different than my emergency alerts. My emergency alerts repeat 3 times. So slightly different behavior, different sound. So once again, we're trying to let people know that this is an audible test. So we want people to hear it, but it's nothing to be too frightened of. And there's not much they need to do with the behavior or with the alert because it's just a test. So we just need them to respond as normal and continue on with their day. If I want to, I can do a post-wave file, but I'm not going to set that up because I'm good with just the one chime. And then how many times do I want that to repeat? I'm going to have that repeat twice as well. So if I do this, it'll say ding ding, this is the test, this is the test, this is the test. Oh, I'm sorry, that it's only going to say twice. So it'll go ding ding, this is the test, this is the test. Ding ding, this is the test, this is the test, because I have the audio play count going twice. So that's what all of this means. With the replay, right now there is no delay, but if I wanted to have a delay, then I could also add that as well as the speech rate, play count, anything like that. I like to have it at medium or slow, depending on whatever settings you have for your speakers. And then, of course, if I have any LED marquees attached to my text-to-speech speakers, then I can have that. I want that to do scroll mode green. And scroll speed is going to be normal. And the LED text color is going to be green. So everything's going to be green here. It's going to look normal, or it's going to look different than a live emergency activation. So I have all that different behavior, once again, as a visual prompt that this is not a real emergency. So I have all of my settings. I'm going to click add. And now I have all 3 of those alert services. So I have my alert beacons, I have my desktops, and I have my text to speech. You also could pull in and do alert aware or other types of integrations in a test alert, especially an audible test. If you just want it to go to all staff and then the language, because this is a custom activation for alert aware, the language is just going to be pulled in from whatever team you have. This one is a critical alert, so I'm not actually going to use this for the system test. I would probably use this not critical alert one for a test. And so this will go to my building 2 as a push notification with the default phone behavior, and it's not a critical alert. So I can also test alert aware. There's all of these things that I can test, especially with an audible alert. If you want to pull in VoIP phones, if you want to pull in any of your other integrations, Everbridge, Rave, HPSA. You can use the message test one, which will say this is a test, or I have a text to speech one. Once again, you can pull in lots of different options. So we're going to focus on the main 3 that I've gone over, but do know that if you have other devices in your system, you can test those as well. And if people on the call do want to go over any specific types of audible testing for anything that I haven't touched on, please feel free to put that in the chat. I do see actually something in the chat right now, so let me go take a look at that real quick. Do I have a standard built-in test alerts? So you will have, when I go down to preset alerts, these are all ones that I built, but you will have one that's called system test that comes default with the system. I highly recommend customizing that regardless. So going through these steps and building out your own test alerts because every system is different. And we want to make sure that your system test looks different than an emergency alert. So if you're doing desktop, we want to have a different desktop profile. If you're doing alert beacons, we're going to get into that settings in a second. If you're doing text-to-speech speakers, then you will make that different alert service as well with the different number of repeats and the different chimes. So you really want to have different behavior for tests than you have for emergency alerts. That really helps with alert fatigue. And we want to make sure that people respond to emergency alerts differently than they respond to tests. So highly recommend following the steps that I built out, even though there is a default one in there. So with that, we have all the preset alerts that I've built. I do have system tests in here already because I have played in the system a whole bunch. This one goes to my desktop. My desktop, my text-to-speech speaker, my alert beacon, and alert aware. but we're going to build one from scratch. However, if you want to edit that system test one that comes default, you can of course click this edit button and then set it up with whatever you would like it to have. But we're going to go from scratch. So adding a preset alert is this black button here. Once again, I'm going to name this Audible Test 6.5. And I'm also going to set this to have a monthly scheduled alert. And we'll come back to that in a bit, but I am going to use the scheduled alert section to do my monthly alert. So I'm actually going to get rid of 6.5. I can give an additional description if I want to. I can also change the preset type. So that's literally what is this preview here. If I want to set up a different kind of icon, then I can. I do have one for tests, so I'll pull that in. But if you want to keep it just default, totally fine as well. Then we have composing the message. So we need to put the language here that we want to pop up. So I like to put very obviously test, test, test. Oops. This is a test of the Alertus system. No action is needed. So I typed that out. We do have some message templates in here. There is a default one, system test, that you could pull in if you wanted to. Oops, I got rid of what I did. Test, test, test. This is a test of the Alertus system. No action is needed. So yes, whatever you would like it to say, then please have that on your in this box. That's going to be what pops up on desktops. It's going to be what's said on your text-to-speech speakers, and it's going to be what pops up on your alert beacons. And if you're targeting phones, it's going to be what the text message says on the phones. Then we have our duration. We like to have tests at least set up for 5 minutes at the lowest, but if you want to go even higher, you can 10, 20, 30, whatever you'd like. You also, once you send it, can cancel it early, but I'm going to have it go for 5 minutes. And then because this is a test, it is not of the highest priority. We want to save that for emergencies. So I'm going to lower this to a lower priority, and that's just in case there is a real emergency at the same time. The real emergency will override the test. So I have the messages here. And then I have my alert services. So this is where I go into building pulling in what I've built already. So I have Alert Beacon, which I'll pull in. And then I have my desktop Audible Alert, green pop-up with chime, which I'll pull in. And then I also have my text-to-speech Audible Alert 6.5 as well. If I wanted to pull in Alert Aware, I'll do that too. My not critical, this will just go to building 2. Then I could pull that in. Or if I want to pull in any of my other ones, I can. But I'm going to focus on these 3 for now. As you can see, the settings for the text-to-speech speaker are already set. The settings for the desktop are already set. But with the Alert Beacon, there is this additional blue plus sign. And with that, this is where the settings live. So right now, I can say that I want my alert to be medium volume with this tone, maybe just an announcement tone, and I can hear the tones if I want to. Not sure if you can hear that, but there's the beep there, so it's just kind of a standard beep. I can also have that go every 250 milliseconds or less. I'm going to go to 1 second. And then for visual alert, I'm also just going to have it do an announcement glow. So it's not like rapidly blinking. It's just more of a constant glow. And I'll go every 1 second for that as well. So these are my settings here. I can even further test the alert beacon if I want to. If I want to say for the first 30 seconds, maybe I'll have it at max volume with a different tone and a different blink, feel free. But because this is just a test, I'm going to keep it all at the same settings with the medium volume, tone 6 for 1 second, and then announcement glow for 1 second. I also have some settings I can set up in my peripheral options here. This is if you have any additional things plugged into your alert beacon, such as additional strobes, sirens, LED marquees. Most of these checkboxes are for that. So if you also want to test those, just make sure that you select them. But there is a third checkbox here that says use alternate LED color green. So if I want this to glow green instead of red, then I can select this. Potentially for a test, I may want it to be green so people once again have that different visual prompt that this is not an emergency. An emergency will be red, so the alert beacons will be red. The test is going to be green, so the alert beacons will glow green. So you can choose exactly what you want to have set up here. So now I have my alert beacon settings, my desktop, and my text-to-speech speakers. And then I'm get to choose the recipients. So I could select a specific group if I want to go to a specific building or team or campus. I could also select individual units if I want to target those. But because this is going to be my monthly test, I want this to go to everyone. So that's going to go to all of my speakers, all of my desktops, and all of my alert beacons. If I also have Rave, it's not going to go to Rave because I haven't pulled that in. If I also have Alert Aware, it's not going to go to Alert Aware because I haven't pulled that in. So whatever alert services you want to test, you're going to pull in here, and then you can choose the recipients for that. So now I have my preset alert, and I'm going to click Add. I can find that if I type in test, I have that Audible test one that I just created. I can add it to my quick access menu by clicking this star. And then if I come back up to preset activation, I'm going to see it in this quick access menu. So I'm going to send it right now. I've let my team know that there's going to be a test. We're ready to go for the system test. It is the time that I'm planning to do so. So I'm going to come here and select it. We can see the language that I have. I could preview it early if I want to, or I can click continue. Right now, I am working from home and I only have my desktop online, so it's not going to go to any of the other devices, so we only will see that come in. But we can see the language, we can see what I'm targeting, we can see what it is online versus offline, I can see what the alert beacon is going to do. So you have all of these different confirmation settings. If you feel good about that, then click send. We will see that it has been successfully sent, as well as being an active alert at the bottom of the screen. So any second now, we will see that green pop up on my desktop on the right corner. There's the chime, if you hear that. There's the system test, test. This is the alerting system, chime repeated twice. And then I can click dismiss it from my individual computer, or I can come here and we can let this go for the full 5 minutes, which I do recommend for a live audible test. We want to make sure that there's time for all of your devices to receive the alert, check in, and start activating. But because this is just going to be for my computer, I'm going to cancel this early. All right. So now I've tested the system, I've sent it out, but I've been sitting at my computer this entire time. I don't know if my alert beacons went off. I don't know if my speakers went off. I don't know if other people's desktops went off. So the way to check that is to go to reports and check alert history. So with alert history, we can see the top one is going to be the most recent alert that's been sent. So I have this one that was sent right now. I see that it targeted my alert beacons, desktops, and speakers. I can see the message. I can click this and I can see that it was sent by me using the Alertus console, that it lasted for 46 seconds. It was also canceled by me. And then I have these three reports attached to each alert. So the first one is device activations. This one is going to give you a snapshot of what was activated and when. So the top of the report gives the same information, what was sent out and to who. And then down here, we can see that I targeted these devices. Only one desktop went off, which is what I expected because everything else is offline. But if you're not expecting that, then this is good data to have so you can go and check those devices that should be online. You can see it in chart form, graph form, and then that individual data. So once again, you can see, okay, my white alert beacon on the training wall is offline. That should be online. Let me go check that the wires are connected. And if it's still, if I go and check that and it's still off, then of course you can call us and we can help troubleshoot. The next report is device acknowledgements. So this one is going to be specifically for desktop clients where you can click that dismiss or acknowledge button. And also alert beacons, you can acknowledge if you press the two buttons right there on the little tiny screen right there. You can see the two black buttons on the front. If you press those at the same time, it will acknowledge the alert. Depending on how you have your dip switches set off in the back, that might either turn off the sound or not. So up to you all with how you want to navigate that for your alert beacon alerts. But once again, I can scroll down and I can see that yes, I did activate and acknowledge my desktop here. Specifically, I acknowledged it at 28 seconds. And then the last report is only for desktops. So this is going to show our logged in users instead. So you can see that, yes, I am logged into my computer. It activated at 7 seconds and acknowledged at 28 seconds. So very handy report. If things are coming in and you are expecting them to be online and they're not, then we can help troubleshoot. We have this support button down here at the bottom where you can email us or give us a call or submit a case in the customer portal. So you can come here and log into the customer portal. This is where we have a ton of resources as well and submit the support ticket. But first, you will need to log in. The last thing that I wanted to touch on is that for testing, we should have it set up on a regular cadence. So I want to have my scheduled alerts ready to go. So I'm going to come down here to scheduled alerts. In order to set up a scheduled alert, you do need to have a preset alert already built because I'm going to pull in that preset alert to then schedule to go off at a certain time. You can see here that there are some already set up, but I'm going to add a new one and I'm going to name this one monthly audible test. I'll pull in that preset alert that I have, my monthly scheduled alert, one that I just built. And then I have my start time. So when is the first time I want to do this? Let's say that I like to do it on the last Wednesday of every month. So I'll do Wednesday and I will do at noon. And then I can have it repeat by months on the fourth Wednesday of every month. So you can pull that in and have that ready to go. And then if I click add, and then I also am only looking at the time frame for this week, so I'm going to look at the next 6 months. We will see that now I have this popped up. It is enabled, and I will also see my execution history and schedule is going to pop up here as well. Let me turn off the fire one so it's not getting in the way, and I'll refresh my page. And then we can take a look at the next 6 months. We see that is on, and then we have that monthly audible alert coming in. So you can see that on the 24th of June, it's going to go off, as well as the 22nd of July, et cetera, et cetera. Let's say you don't want to send it off on the 25th of November because that's the day before Thanksgiving. You can just turn off that one instance and then it will not go off at that time. So now I don't need to come into the system and send out an alert manually. This will automatically send out the alert at that time. Great. So I think that is everything that I wanted to cover today. We do have about 2 more minutes if there are any questions. And of course, I'm going to put some resources in the chat. So the first thing is, let me pull this over. So sorry. That I'm going to, here we go, put in the user guide for scheduled alerts. So that is on our customer portal. So I'll put that in the chat. And then we also have a user guide on all the reports. I only touched on the alert history report, but there are a bunch of other reports that are handy. So I'll put that in the chat as well. And then, as I mentioned, if you did miss part one where we went over test mode and silent testing, I will put the YouTube recording of that in the chat. And then next week, we have another power lunch called Essential Alert Aware Configuration Tasks for Effective Management and Optimal Performance. So if you are an Alert Aware customer and want to come to that and learn more about it, please feel free to register here. Let me put that in the chat. Great, and I'll also stop sharing my screen. It is right at time, so if there are any additional questions, I'll stay on for a few more seconds, but I'm not seeing anything in the chat or in the Q&A box. So thank you so much for being here today. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, I'll be here for a few more minutes or moments. And then also feel free to email us at trainingteam@alertus.com. I hope you all have a good rest of your Friday and weekend. Thank you for being here.